I'd love to hear all three of you actually speak about any relationships you may have had with your real life folks, and how you cut the difference between these real people and the characters you're creating on screen.
Well, it's tricky, and as an actor, it's a challenge, but it's a challenge that I welcomed. How do you get the essence of somebody without caricaturing them? And so you have to work with your director, and in this case, Jamie. Jamie had such a grip on this story. Now, by the way, he's paying me for this.
Oh, absolutely.
No, he had such a
Not
grip.
much, but
No, not much, but you know.
He had such a
American
grip
dollars.
on this story from many points of view, not only a director's point of view, writer's point of view, but historian's point of view. And so you could really trust Jamie. But the question is, okay, I'm playing somebody that's well known on a nightly basis, and you got to be careful how you're going to negotiate that. And so for me, it was getting the essence of something without being caricature. And so as an actor, and Dennis can appreciate this, and Cate, that's a challenge that's good. I mean, you want, as an actor, you want challenges. You know, you want those things. And this was a challenge as an actor that I welcome, but it scared the hell out of me. What scared me was representing somebody on film that everybody knew at one time on a nightly basis, and how to capture the essence of that person without mimicking them. And that was, the thing in my advantage was that there was 15 years in between when he was on nightly news. I mean, had this happened in 2013 or 14, I don't think I would have touched it.
But the interesting thing about Roger to me was he told this story. He was the one who had been to Vietnam, and he was, you know, through him in the story, he's telling it from the perspective of someone who did not try to get out of the draft, who went there for duty and love of country, and he was a little pissed off, to tell you the truth. Because of the way the story came out, and he just wanted the truth to come out.
And in that 10 years, a lot has changed in journalism. I imagine your sense, watching this now, it feels almost like a requiem for a certain period, you know, the death of the anchor. Does it feel, how did the script evolve over those 10 years? As your sense of where journalism was changing evolved, did the script also evolve?
The script a little bit, but not as much maybe as you would think, because, you know, I always sort of thought that the best way to tell the story was to tell the story, and just to you know, one of the nice things that Cate said when we sort of started working on it was that it's not a biopic, it's a story about a story. And these are the people who worked on that story, and this is the experience they had on it. So I always sort of felt like the best way to tell that was just to sort of drop you into it, and to take you through what these characters' experience was, building the story, and then, you know, watching the wheels come off the bus and the story sort of fall apart. So in terms of that, it didn't change that much, because it was just about sort of giving the audience that experience. And that experience didn't change between 2007, you know, when I sort of wrote the first draft, and now 2015 when the movie came out. So our perspective, I think, in looking at it has changed, and we're looking at it through a different sort of filter. But the actual experience for the characters and what they went through emotionally has always been the same.
You're talking about these stories about stories. I kind of laughed at Dennis's line this time in a different way. I didn't catch it the first time, where he's talking about, oh, it's all going to be stories about how journalism's made.
Sure.
I'm sure that's going to happen. Was that sort of an in-joke you put in the script?
Well, no, that was always, I mean, you know, one of the wonderful things about, you know, making a movie about real people is you can cheat. And you can actually talk to them, and they'll say wonderful things about that. So and then you can go, I'm going to write this down and have an act. So, you know, speaking to Lieutenant Colonel Roger Charles, you know, he sort of talked about that. He talked about, you know, we're going in this, you know, we're getting to an echo chamber type of place in terms of media, where, you know, someone reports a story and somebody reports on that story, and then somebody reports on the reporting of that story, and it just kind of pings around a little bit. And I think, you know, Colonel Charles was correct about that, and that's sort of where we are right now.
And Kate, you and Bob have such great and complicated chemistry in this film. It's paternal, it's professional, it's all kinds of different things.
Great and complicated chemistry.
But it's odd because you're often not on screen together. You're often in different directions. You're off reporting the story, and he's on the anchor desk in different rooms. You've got a lot of phone calls happening in the scene. How'd you build that chemistry between the two of you?
It had a lot to do.
With
It
sex.
had a lot to do with.
A lot to do with sex. I mean, you
With
cut
what?
straight to. We didn't have a lot of time.
I didn't want to say it,
Yeah.
but there it is.
It had a lot. What was the question?
But
It's about sex.
We literally just came from having a drink with Mary and Dan, Dan +2, and still to this day you can feel how symbiotically connected they are, both emotionally, professionally, and psychologically. And you know, Mary will turn to Bob and say, "This is really great for Dan." And Dan will turn to me and say, "Thank you. This has been so great for Mary." You know, there's a level of care and respect and admiration between them. And yes, I was excited to be working with Jamie because, you know, with every single word that was chosen within the script, you realise that there was a very sure directorial hand, at play there. So that was a given. But I knew that whoever, I said, well, my second question was, who's going to play Dan? Because I knew that the film would live or die on that connection. When he said, well, my first choice is Robert Redford. And I said, well, good luck. And then when I heard that Bob was interested, I said, well, if there's anything I can do, and when I knew that was, a done deal, I knew that we were onto something really exciting, and because that is, it's at the core of the film, that relationship.
And when Kate being an actress and all
I
of
am
us
an
being
actress.
actors,
Don't you forget it. I'm an actress.
We're gonna go at something with some research. And so when I got this offer, I thought, well, I'm going to call Dan Rather, and I called Dan, and I said, Dan, it looks like I'm going to be playing you. Is there anything you want to tell me about this story? And he said, yeah, Bob, it was really about loyalty. It was just about loyalty. My loyalty to Mary Mapes, her loyalty to me, it was unbroken. It was an unbroken loyalty. And that loyalty enabled us to go through really, really ups and downs of difficult times. And to me, that seemed to be the core of this relationship, which would be the core of what Jamie had written. That what Kate and I would try to bring to that with all the other characters that Dennis is involved with, it's about loyalty, because you can see in the film that all the characters that play, including Dennis, because he was in a difficult situation where he had to leave one thing and support another thing, and yet he had a history of military. So I felt that complexity was really worth it. But finally, if you boil it all down, because you have to do that, you have to say, well, what's finally this all about? It was about loyalty, and I thought that was a wonderful core thing to work with.
Yes, the film is incredibly specific. It's about a specific moment in time, both for an organization, a media organization, and two individuals, but a team of individuals. But I think the film speaks to a far greater, unexamined a series of events, and I think that's what it reopens. What was I found remarkable. I knew the Bush Guard story, but I didn't know about the personal and professional detritus afterwards. And I feel like, in a way, what makes the film potentially compelling is that we haven't really answered. It got shut down so quickly in a way that the Kerry Swiftboat stuff did not. And that in itself is an interesting sort of question. Why did one examination get shot down in flames and another so-called examination did not? And I think that there's certain things that have not been processed for all of us, in the way we digest information and move on. I think that's what makes the film. I personally am not particularly interested in agitprop, pieces of theatre or film, but I'm interested in films that provoke the conversation, and I feel like the conversation has been shut down, and hopefully films like this will kind of reignite it. It's interesting that, Spotlight has also come out of Toronto. I think we're interested in the way news gets processed and disseminated, and how stories get built, and who's behind those stories. I think an audiences are quite sort of interested in that process.